everyone, welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, a podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, game masters, casual fans, and diehard enthusiasts like Josh and myself. I am, of course, Dan. With me, of course, is Josh.
Welcome to episode 40, everybody. 40. I'm glad you're here with us today, and glad whether you are just joining us or have been with us for the long haul. We were talking before we started recording and realized that we are about, at least as of this recording, like 6 weeks out of our 1-year anniversary of our first episode drop.
Yeah.
Many podcasts never make it this far. And we are still going and still going strong. So
my second one did not. So this is my third. Third time's the charm. Yeah. But any suggestions on how we should celebrate that, listeners? Because at the moment, since we just discussed it, Josh and I have absolutely no idea other than continuing to do this and have a good time at it. So that's our anniversary surprise.
So two questions then that we have sort of directed to you before we get to the questions from you lovely folks. We actually have a couple of questions that maybe you can contribute and perhaps help us out. One is if you have any ideas about what we could do as a special 1-year anniversary thing, that would be cool. The other is that we were talking about with the successful completion recently of the Iopos Kickstarter, and the physical books of that will be winding their way, actually as of the release of this episode, hopefully are already winding their way to our lovely backers. The completion of the Empty Thrones Kickstarter and the, hopefully by the time that this episode drops, release of the full PDF available to people on that. Backers, of course, have already seen the pre-release version of that, and feedback has been great. So we've had a couple of like successful and well-received books, where we as a development team are becoming a lot more comfortable and confident in our ability to provide, high-quality content.
Oh, and we have a third Kickstarter to start.
And we have a third Kickstarter that just launched 2 days ago as of our recording. As of the release of this episode, will have been going now about 2 weeks, and we'll have maybe about a week or so left. That is for a print version of Champions Challenge, the Earthdawn webcomic, written and drawn by Don Higgins. And the adventures
compiled into graphic novel format.
Compiled into a book format. Don Higgins, the story of Bazette, a Kistulami to Scrang, who has not really fit in with the life in his village thus far, and finds himself somewhat unceremoniously thrust into a world of adventure. And
already backed this one.
Yeah, it's great. As of our recording,
gimme.
We were only asking for $1,000 on this because this is kind of a small one, but we're already at over 2,000 with like 23 or so days to go.
Yeah,
and stretch goals, of course, online. So if you had not been following the webcomic, the episodes of that, the pages of that, as they had been going up online over the past several months. You will get not only a print copy if you want to back for that, there is a PDF copy available, and it will also have hopefully all of the typos and misspellings and all of the other stuff that kind of slipped through the initial work on it in the new one. So, please, if you can and you want to, back that, spread the word and share the love. Anyway, Volume 2, Chapter 2, just recently started back up, on the website as well. So you can kind of go on with that. Anyway, with all of this fantastic...
first question.
So with all of this...
Anniversary.
Yeah, so
Second question.
Second question. We are trying to, I think, come up with ways to spread the word, to, for lack of a better term, evangelize Earthdawn outside of the wonderful and loyal fan base that we have built thus far. We had more backers for the Empty Thrones Kickstarter than we had for any Kickstarter except the original 4th edition launch, which is great. That shows that things are growing in a positive direction. But we want to, there is still a situation where people are not aware that Earthdawn is back, that we're releasing it, or maybe that it's even a game that exists. And if there are anybody who has any ideas about how we might be able to spread the word about Earthdawn, send those in as well. Obviously, we can't guarantee that we would be able to do everything for them, but that would be really, really
We'll take
cool.
ideas.
Yeah, we'll happily take
How do we
ideas.
advertise? advertise, get the word out, get new people involved, get old people back if they didn't even know 4th edition's a thing, or, begin to overtake the market share from everybody else that we possibly can, because that's what we want to do.
Well,
and I say we, like I'm on the development team. I'm not. Josh is, so. But dang it, I want world domination for Earthdawn.
Anyway.
It's all I've ever wanted.
So those
on to your questions.
Yes.
So if you have any ideas on either one of those,
send us an email, edsgpodcast@gmail.com. If you have any other questions or suggestions or feedback that you want to throw our way, that is the address to use as well. We've got a bunch of emails that we're going to get to. We had our first where somebody emailed in and had some questions, but requested that we not read it on the air, because apparently they are questions related to their game that they are running, and they don't want their players to hear our answers. So we will, by the time this drops, I will have sent an email in reply to try and address those. But that's fine. If you don't want us to read an email on the air, just mention so, and we will accommodate you.
Yeah, we're honorable folk. We'll take care of you that way. So, anyway, on to the first one from Lee. Hi, guys. I've recently started playing Earthdawn, and I'm currently running around with a wielding archer.
Cool.
Enjoying listening to the series, and some of the background lore has been quite a revelation to me. I'm playing the role from a viewpoint of being a soldier, a part of a unit. Pretty much from the way that one warrior can't form a very effective shield wall, so the melee players block enemy access to me. I rain down death and destruction from the rear. Archers, compared to other classes, really don't have options for weapons. As a wieldling, I have one weapon choice, which is really limiting. There aren't really options to encourage larger races to take the discipline.
Troll archers are badass.
Badass. Yeah, they are. We covered them because I'm playing alongside a troll archer.
Yeah.
So without going into custom weapon design system, how feasible are more ranged options doable? For example, for each +3 strength minimum, get a +1 base damage step and a +10 to short range, maybe? So without going into custom weapon design, what else can you do for the wielding archers?
So the thing that I would look into, especially if you're looking at a wielding archer, is you want to invest in a thread bow. Like you want to get a thread item that is a bow, because that will just boost your output. In fact, on the Earthdawn developers blog just this past weekend, as we record this, so this would have been the blog that went up for August 7th. I actually posted a wielding thread bow called Fang. Coincident that was like, this is an item that I came up with a while ago. But it is a wielding bow, specifically designed. The premise around it is that it, in addition to having some of the standard like damage and attack boosts that you often see with magical items, its kind of special ability, its theme is that as you progress in the ranks, you gain the ability to magically infuse arrows that you fire from it with various types of poison. So it starts off, the first one that you get is kind of a slightly weaker version of the Kisra sleeping potion, or sleeping poison. It gets a little bit stronger, and then you also get a straight up damaging poison and a deadly debilitating poison that at the higher ranks. And so that is it's a bow that does that kind of stuff. So, but I would think for any archer, but a wielding archer especially, because wieldlings are limited in their regular weapon selections as well for like melee. If you're talking about a warrior or a swordmaster or a cavalryman, because of their size limitations, there are only so many weapons that they really have to choose from. And yeah, you're right. Aside from the blowgun, right? Basically the wielding bow is really the only other option that you've got. And so you really want to look at, and your game master should probably have available for you a threaded bow or items that will help enhance your potential situation there.
Yeah, because wieldlings are people too.
Yeah.
Maybe a sling is my only other thought, but otherwise, I think thread bow, easiest way to get that taken.
I mean, we talked about weapons a little bit in a past episode, and the limited, like, how granular, how much variety there actually is within the weapons, just because of the limitations of sizes and damage steps and things like that. One of the other things that you might look into, and I cannot at all speak to how balanced and or broken they might be. I know there have been some fan projects out there that you can probably find online. I know there was one that like developed different types of arrows that you could fire from the bow to like change capabilities and add different stuff like that. Again, I have not really looked at it. I cannot speak at all to its suitability or potential game breaking sort of situation. But yeah, other than like really doing a massive overhaul on how weapons kind of work in general, it is a little bit unfortunate that windling archers in particular, but windling characters in general, don't have a whole lot of choices when it comes to their weapons selection. And so at that point, even more than other disciplines other races tend to rely more on thread items to kind of make up for that.
Fair. All right, on to the second email we got, and Josh is going to get taken to task here by Kagorsi, because Kagorsi had to make an appearance. So this is what I get to do, character voices. Yay me. And I'm sorry, listeners, so far nobody's complained, so I'm going to keep doing it. Especially Kagorsi himself has not complained, so I'm going to keep doing it. Greetings again, friends. It is Kagorsi, and I am writing this to thank you for your inspiring talk of all things Swordmaster. In it, we have discovered that Josh and I are 100% in complete agreement that orcs are most certainly the best Swordmasters. I congratulate Josh on his admission, although I am sure it is hard for him to lend voice to it, as he is so fond of Tiskrang. Perhaps that is why his word choice danced around the acknowledgement. It is okay, Josh. We understand the meaning of your words by the manner in which you spoke them. While speaking of Josh and the words he has used, I must say that I have a bone to pick with him. He has called out the poor scribe Brandon for a lighthearted joke about some other fantasy system, and now I owe it to the scribe's honor to call Josh out for his treatment of some of the best swordmasters in all of Barsave. If my memory serves me right, even in my advanced age, I do believe Josh said the following in this wonderful episode. Wooing the ladies. Two-handed sword guys. Big axe guys. Quarterstaff guys. While I do admit I have a few strong women that took a liking to the company of other women, it would appear that Josh is in need of some sensitivity training. I do believe a short apology is called for here. I know it was not intentional as he is a very big fan of Knave, but I would like to hear his response. I will also point out that a portrait of a very famous swordmaster appears in what you call the Player's Guide. That great swordmaster is both a woman and a very smart swordmaster, as she wields a real two-handed weapon and not a silly pair of toothpicks. Also note she has killed a named great dragon and is showing off her kill. I should also mention there is a portrait of the treasonous Tiskrang illusionist a few pages prior that has cast an illusion on the vanquished great dragon to make it appear as a mere drake or dragonling. Do not squirm too much, Josh. It is all in good fun. Until I find something interesting to say, I will take my leave. Always a fan, Kagorsi.
That is fair. And I absolutely realize that my tendency and the shortcomings of the English language and the not truly gender neutral use of guy and dude and whatever as, you know, as a generic term. No, sword master ladies are phenomenal. Knave, as I mentioned in that episode, is awesome. Mm-hmm. Whether one is partial to the dudes or the ladies, all are welcome and all are awesome. And it is a off-the-cuff shortcoming, something that I am working on in terms of being better in the language and the words that I use when I am speaking. And so it is absolutely fair, and I appreciate the call out and the mention that I was being a little bit too patriarchal, too typical in that.
Since we just passed 10,000 downloads, listens, whatever you want to call it, 10,000 plays to this podcast over the course of our 40 episodes, including this one, we have checked the metrics, and there's about a 4% listener base of our listeners that are female. Mm-hmm. We would love to hear from you, by all means.
Yes.
Please let us know you're out there, what you like playing, what you're doing. We want to hear from you. That will remind us both to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
And we always want inclusion.
Yeah, I mean, we've got, you know, we've got some great people that work on Earthdawn with us. Obviously, Andy Watson, the project manager and the one who rides herd on all of us crazy creatives, trying to kind of make things sure that things keep flowing in the right direction. Monica, who has done the maps for the past few Legends of Barsave adventures. For us, from the Polish fan contingent, stayed with her and her family when I was out there, a little over a year ago. And, again, spoke with her at the Orichalcum convention recently. She has done phenomenal work. We've had artists and whatnot. We've had some writers contributing to some of the books that were women. We would absolutely love to see more of that. And
absolutely.
Please accept my apologies for my falling back into the rut of non-inclusiveness that sometimes happens.
So, okay, we've pointed out through our discussion of the races, which we're going to get to Obsidimen here later on, that the Tiskrang are matriarchal and the orcs are as evenly... there's no power dynamic as far as patriarchal or matriarchal in orc society. They're all equal. So, like that. Anyway, so yes, with the nature of inclusion in mind, ladies, please, women, love to hear from you and love to get more of you, by the way. Not just listening, but playing. Okay? Yeah. We need to get more.
Well, I think plenty of them are playing. I mean, I've had, like, my wife, we met because of Earthdawn. We had a friend of ours who was in a long-term running game, had Leanne and Sarah were both long-term players in the game. I think we had Rebecca I have played Earthdawn with, loads and loads of women over the years, both at my regular game table and at conventions. I know they play, but I also know that being online, like seeing what happens in like in RPG space, like say on Twitter broadly, especially in Dungeons and Dragons portion of that, and the poor treatment and abuse and crap that they have to put up with can certainly make it very difficult or uncomfortable for them to come forward. And I think the ones that do and that speak out are great. And I would like to see that be the case with Earthdawn.
Yes.
Oh, and again, more wonderful women who have worked on it. Anna, aka Double Proficiency online. She has been doing the layout for the Legends of Barsave adventures for the past few.
I think Janet Alicio has always been contributing art since the first edition.
I mentioned artists. We were lucky enough to have her come back and do some stuff for the players and game masters guides. But anyway, yes,
that's just me memory checking. That's not even me reading a book. That's just me memory checking. So Brandon follows up. Says, got my group going finally. We are a few sessions in already. The Missus is even having a good time playing her first tabletop RPG, and that is in part to the both of you. Thank you, Josh, and me, Dan. A good game world. She is even asking to play more, so it worked out better than he had expected. I have liked the advice and discussions from the show, but now I have some questions from actual play I would like to run by you. Okay. The group consists of 2 casters, a troubadour, and a cursed warrior. He's rolled critical failures far, far too often and been a victim of exploding dice multiple times. So they ran into a problem where they wanted to fight a group of NPCs but not kill them. It seems to me that only melee can attack to stun. Is there anything a spellcaster can do in a situation like this?
Not as written, unfortunately, but that is definitely something for me to take under consideration and actually maybe mention it to Morgan. It may be something that he has thought about and come up with a reason why, but it might be a case where we might just be able to make some spells that specifically do that.
I remember
illusionists are the closest. Well, yeah, like a sleep type spell, or illusionists with their illusory damage can't actually kill anybody. They still kind of actually do damage, but they can't. You can't kill anybody with an illusion spell. But
my wizard had sleep, and I just touched somebody, they fell right out. So that was. I don't know if that spell got ported back into 4th edition or not, but I remember that one specifically working.
I didn't hear it.
The sleep spell in the Wizards.
Yeah, it is not, as far as I'm aware, currently in the talent or spell selection for Wizards.
I hadn't looked in a while.
Doesn't look like it. Oh, no, it is. Okay. It's a 6th circle wizard spell.
Whoa!
Puts one or more characters into a deep sleep.
Okay.
So, yeah. I can definitely see that as an option, as something that might be worth exploring as, like, start doing some additional spells and whatnot. I think rather than have it be an option that you can do, like attacking to stun with weapons, there would be specific spells that you would bring to bear to not kill people, to subdue or stun them or whatever.
Fair. He did say his party did find success after emptying the good old karma pools, but just wanted to hear if there's anything we could add to that, and so Josh will get on that. The players are all happy with their discipline choices, so he doesn't want to change any of that for balance reasons. If there are problems in the future, I would rather just adjust that on his side of the Game Master screen, and I don't blame you at all. Let the players play. You alter your mode for them. On another note, I simplified a lot of the rules for dice rolls for the first half of our session, but to my surprise, everyone was really quick to adjust to the normal rules, and they much preferred them. I'll add combat options and such soon, as they seem ready for most of it. Is it ever too early for thread items? As they scale with thread weaving, I think I might start giving them stuff as soon as they shouldn't be overpowering. So, is it ever too early?
No, I don't think so. You know, in earlier editions, when most disciplines didn't get access to thread weaving until 4th Circle, an argument could be made to hold off on providing thread items until they could actually do something with them. Although providing them a little bit early so that they could, you know, have maybe the first key knowledge known when they get thread weaving and be able to use it right away is worthwhile.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But no, I don't think it's ever too early to introduce thread items to the group, especially if they are becoming comfortable with the stuff that they've got as new players in their first circle or whatever. Then introduce that stuff and start going from there. Yeah,
I think even Harry Potter got the Cloak of Invisibility in the first book?
I guess.
So, I mean, something like that.
It has been a long time. It has been a long time since I've read them.
Fair enough. I was referring to the movie, but anyway, that's just me. So, also wanted to say he enjoyed the Swordmaster episode a lot, but we forgot to mention his favorite Swordmaster in the movies. That would, of course, be Doc Holliday from Tombstone, Taunt, and Impressive Display at their finest.
Yeah, Tombstone is a great movie, and
a fantastic
that is an absolute phenomenal performance by Val Kilmer in that film. And the reason that it was not
utterly quotable,
that it didn't come to mind, I think, is because it's a Western.
Yeah, and he uses guns, not swords.
That's because he uses guns, not swords. I mean, if you're going to go that route and say, okay, well, let's take another great Swordmaster inspiration character that you can have from the Westerns. Sam Raimi's The Quick and the Dead. Very underrated film. Sharon Stone's character in that, or at least, there's some characters in that absolutely would be considered Swordmasters, but in the cowboy gunslinger.
Yes.
Yeah. No, good suggestion. Good suggestion, Brandon.
Great flick. No, love it. Thank you, Brandon. He'll refrain on going on a rant about dual wield, even though he despises that legacy from D&D, and we can't seem to get away from it in RPGs and movies. It would be selfish of him to get Josh to devote any time to it, as he realizes he's in the minority in being opposed to dual wield. But thanks for all the good advice and the discussions. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Brandon. Brandon has a follow-up email where he says, sent out an email yesterday. I just listened to this week's episode this morning. Just wanted to clarify that I hold no ill will towards either games like Pathfinder. He's in complete agreement with Josh and Corey on that matter. His humble apologies. When he says anything like that, it is merely in jest, and things like that are hard to convey through text. He even intends on playing in his friend's Pathfinder game for what it's worth. And he just remembered that Kagorsi and he are renowned for having asses and mouths that are smarter than the rest of their bodies. Thank you, Brandon.
No, I know it was Brandon's email that prompted me to go on my pushback against other games. And I know that he, it was, I can tell when somebody is like gently poking fun as opposed to being a jerk about it. I have been.
Yeah.
I can tell.
We're not inured to it.
No hard feelings, at all.
Keep
Brandon,
coming,
appreciate
Keep
that.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, the whole dual wield thing. I don't know that it's so much a legacy of D&D on the part of the Swordmaster as it is the sort of iconic style of the rapier and dagger, rapier and mangoche style of fencing duelist kind of thing that I think plays a lot of influence into the Swordmaster. It's just that because of the way that action economies work in RPGs, dual wielding tends to be a common route for the combat system to be broken.
Yeah. I look at dual wielding like eskrima sticks for Filipino martial arts. I've seen it in The Perfect Weapon. I've seen it with Steven Seagal in one movie, and even Bruce Lee did it once upon a time as well. So I look at dual wielding as far as that's concerned.
But yeah,
two sticks, not two swords. Yes.
Drist Doerden has a lot to answer for.
And we will leave it right there.
We will leave it there. People who know what I mean, and we'll go on from there.
Oh, yeah, we do, and we'll let that one lie. we're good there. Follow up from Lee, I believe, unless it's a different Lee, which is entirely possible, but who knows? Hi, guys. Still enjoying the show. Well, good, because we're still going to produce it, so thank you. And slowly catching up to more current releases. I have a couple of questions this time. Question 1. He listened to the Archer discussion and have read the text in the player's guide, but I'm still a little unsure how True Shot is intended to work. This is his understanding of it. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to break the game for the rest of the group. I have True Shot at rank 7. I have to declare before making my attack roll I'm using True Shot number, where number is the 1 through 7 points of karma I'm spending on the missile weapon test.
Correct.
Okay, so if he declares True Shot using 4 points of karma, does he add all 4 dice to the dice pool in one go?
Yes.
4 dice in this example? And can he still add 1 karma die as normal to the melee weapons test for a total of 5, missile weapons test for a total of 5 dice?
So to the first part where, yes, if he says he's going to do True Shot to do 4 points of karma, all of that gets rolled on the initial attack test.
Okay.
I believe, let me just flip in my book here real quickly to check the exact wording. I know what my gut says.
But there's a reason we write these things down. So we can all have the same rule to play by.
Yes, you can then spend the normal karma point that you would be able to for the missile weapons.
Just the talent boost. Yeah, just the talent boost.
For just like, because it is a talent, you can spend a karma on it normally. The True Shot then is additional karma above and beyond that. So if you have True Shot at rank 1, that allows you to then spend 2 karma on your missile weapons, 1 from it being a talent, the second from the True Shot talent. So if you have it at rank 7, and you decide you're going to spend 4 on the initial test, and you can spend a 5th one because it's a talent, so you could roll 5 additional d6 on your attack. So yes, you are you are correct with everything thus far.
Okay. If he misses somehow on that test,
yes,
I can then add +1 karma die 1 at a time until I do hit up to the other 3 limit, because it's only a maximum of 7.
Yes.
Okay. So far, Lee, everything you've asked, yes. You're right on. You're spot on with your understanding of how True Shot works for archers. Okay, question 2, stopping aim. If I have stopping aim rank 4, I can force one person to remain in place for 4 turns. Does this prevent them casting spells or using missile weapons?
No, because it stops movement. It does not
on the ground.
It does not. Yeah, it stops movement, but it does not prevent them from doing stuff that does not require them to move. So they could conceivably still cast a spell, or if they happened to be, obviously if they were attacked by somebody else, then the stopping aim breaks, because that's in the rules for it there. But no, yeah, my reading of it is that it just prevents movement. So it would not prevent a magician from not casting a spell, but it would lock them down very nicely, perhaps for a swordmaster or warrior or somebody to close and start beating on them.
Totally. My personal question, this is Dan, not Lee, would that drop windlings out of the sky or just make them hover in place?
I would probably make them hover in place, because having that be something where you force them to fall and take damage seems a little bit bad.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So I hover in place, just want to clarify that. Okay, during those 4 turns of stopping aim, can I target other people to prevent them moving as well? And is the previous victim still held in place if I do?
No,
asked and answered.
Because keeping aim and keeping someone locked down requires you to concentrate, and you can't take any standard actions while doing so. Stopping aim itself is a standard action. And so if you take a standard action to block somebody else down, that'll remove it from the first target.
So as far as I can tell right now, stopping aim is a single target effect only.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clarify that as well.
As written as the talent, that is correct.
Cool. So if I hold concentration on a single target for more than 4 turns, when does their 4 turns of immobility begin? When I initially target them, or when I release my concentration on them on turn 5 or more?
I hate timing questions.
Fair.
It's the same sort of situation that we ran into when we were trying to figure out, like, how long do the penalties from spells last? Like, if they've got a duration of X rounds, because people's relative position in the initiative order can change. Mm-hmm. Like, if to do an example, let's say that a swordmaster acts first in a round, and then a magician goes and casts a spell. that provides a penalty to the Swordmaster. And then the next round, just because of the dice, the Magician goes first. Does the spell expire when the Magician's turn is up, or does it last? That's why in a lot of cases it's the spell's description say until the end of the next round or whatever, so that you are guaranteed to get at least one round of use out of the ability.
Yeah.
I would be inclined to say that it would lock the target down for 4 of their actions using the number in the example. That's probably the way that I would handle it.
Okay.
The rules on the timing on that are not clear. And I just know that it is annoying to do something and then because of the vagaries of initiative rolls end up not really getting any benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be inclined to have you need to spend 4 of your actions concentrating and the target is affected by that for 4 of their actions. Unless things seem really, really weird just because of the way that initiative rolls end up.
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
Like I like the way that 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons has the 1 initiative roll at the beginning of combat and it just cycles through everybody every round so that everybody gets a turn before you get your next turn kind of thing.
Yeah.
And people often ask about, well, what if we just have fixed initiative, like we do 1 initiative roll and everybody then gets the same initiative and you cycle through. Problem with that in Earthdawn is that you've got talents like Air Dance and Tiger Spring and things like that you need to figure out how those interact with that new initiative paradigm, and I have not put any effort into figuring that out.
So until that changes, we'll go with this. So, Josh, switch gears to group pattern threads real quick.
Yeah.
So, on an unrelated note, in more recent podcast, smile, does this mean group members can gain a +1 to 5 bonus to damage, adding talents like critical hit or crushing blow for group thread patterns?
Yes.
See? Had a feeling that was easy. Cool.
Yep.
Thank you, Lee. Hopefully that answered it, because you were right on everything, Lee. So the way you interpreted stopping aim. True shot. You were right on, you were absolutely, you had the right ideas, man. All as well. So last email from Benito. So hello, Dan and Josh. The EDSG is my favorite podcast. I used to have a long commute and now it plays in the background when I'm drawing or working outside. Congratulations, Josh. You and I have reached background status. Love the banter, the Earthdawn system insight, explanation of the rules, setting, etc. For many years, I've been in a quest to find a good Earthdawn podcast, the greatest fantasy game I've never played, more later, and you guys deliver. Thank you, Benito. We try to. I have listened to the many episodes multiple times. Wow, you are bored. Just kidding.
Well, that's why we've got 10,000 listens.
Exactly. We started with episode 21, so you missed the first 20 where we built up to all of that stuff. Warriors, and was hooked at make your opponent dead, hack, slash, kill, and pillage. My whole song that came from a friend of mine. The hour of rambling did hold back the cabin fever and madness of COVID world. Yay, muchas gracias. I have a deep love of Earthdawn from the first time I saw Jeff Laubenstein and Janet Alicio's art in the first edition core books and read Inheritance. Poor Mestoff. Never truly liked the Shadowrun ties, so always treated like in an alternate dimension. The setting is so rich, although the rules became a barrier. 4th edition cleared my hesitancy, and listening to the podcast has given me confidence to run a campaign for my family and friends.
Yay!
Again, thank you, Dan and Josh.
Awesome.
Mostly Josh and the development team. They did the work. I'm just trying to sell it. A couple of questions. Is there a way that the talent Woodskin could provide a small unarmed damage advantage to warriors? I get it, game balance, etc., but the muscles and sinews do toughen up and create in my words, not Benito's, a more formidable object to hit with, like a...
I would look at that potentially being a knack.
I agree. I was just
that you would develop. I don't know. Like, basically, it's okay. You want to do something that kind of makes sense based on what Woodskin does, but isn't really actually covered by it as a talent.
Yeah.
Because it's a durability / survivability talent and is more defensive in nature rather than offensive. If you want to shift it to be offensive, I have no ideas or suggestions about how you might do that. But that's where I would, that's the space that I would go into. The other thing, I don't want to speculate because I would be here forever.
No, fair.
But is it possible? Yeah, in theory, it would be something that would be developed as a knack. might even be something that would be developed as a sort of proprietary knack only available to a certain path. Like if you sort of maybe were developing like an elemental warrior type path, that did some different and funky stuff with their elementally themed talents.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. At that point, you're looking at like the flavor and the reason for it existing. But yeah, I could theoretically conceive of something like that, but I have no idea off the top of my head how I might handle the mechanics. Because you would need to trade off some of the durability of wood skin, some of the durability that it provides in exchange for the offensive capability that you would gain from it. Like that's where you would need to go, and you would need to figure out a good trade-off and how to determine what to do with that. I mean, my other instinct is to say, hey, if you haven't yet, get Mystic Paths and look at the Gauntlet.
I was just looking at the Gauntlet saying, do they get wood skin? And because it's been a while since I've looked at them.
Yeah, but the Gauntlet wouldn't need to have an offensive capability thing for wood skin because they get
the option.
Yeah,
they get it as a novice option. Wood skin.
But they wouldn't need to because they get plenty of other things that allow them to boost their damage.
Yeah. So
yeah, I could idea. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. Go to the forums or to the Facet Games Discord and say, hey, here's an idea that I had. What do people think? And see what other people think.
See what kind of responses you get. You've heard ours. What would you think is the most Earthdawn movie out there? Who would you cast if you could make one? And what story?
Oh boy.
The most Earthdawn movie I've seen, honestly enough, is Aragon, where I looked at it and said, "Oh, somebody played Earthdawn."
I have not either read the book or seen the movie. I have not heard great things about the movie. I haven't, to be honest, heard great things about the book. But I mean, that's fine. I no opinion, no shade thrown on my part at all. It's just not something that I ever got to. Oh boy. I don't have anything that immediately comes to mind in terms of like the most Earthdawn movie. I think if I were to cast, if I were to see an Earthdawn movie be made, like in my ideal world, he says, glancing backwards at his shelf.
Yeah, of Earthdawn stuff.
I would probably most want to see a movie version of Lost Care by Nigel Findlay.
I was going to go with a movie version of Talisman, just because it's 5 interconnected stories.
That
would really explain
we're like, okay, so we've got, if we're looking at a standalone movie, I would probably go with Lost Care.
Fair.
If I were to, like, if Netflix were to come with a big sack of money.
Episodic.
And to do more, or Amazon Prime, or somebody to do a more episodic, like, short series, I think DreamWorks, if you're listening, you've done really well with She-Ra. You've done really well with Dragon Prince. You've done really well with Kipo. And there it is, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts.
Okay, there you go.
It's got sort of like the Fallout vibe, and it's kind of like strange fantasy kind of things with a lot of like weird creatures and mysterious stuff that has happened, and someone who was living underground and goes to the surface and doesn't know anything about what's going on. There is that kind of very definite Earthdawn vibe.
Yeah.
And the main character, Kipo, actually has magic powers, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like very fantasy Earthdawn, but it does definitely have an Earthdawn vibe. But anyway, an animated series of Earthdawn to like
I'm available for voice talent.
Yeah, like like DreamWorks, if you're listening, like I know lots of people are looking for like properties that they can leverage into possibly being a series or whatnot. I am happy to. I'm sure that we would love to take money to license it, and I would be happy to consult on developing a story. But if you're looking at an animated, like at a series, at an episodic sort of thing, I would actually like to see something more original created.
Yes.
Or, something along those lines. I don't know.
Fair. And casting, once you figure out what medium it is, what the story is, casting happens after that. Because look at the number of Oscar winners.
Look, if we're talking, so
in the Marvel movies, for Pete's sake, so you can get anybody you want.
If I could get anybody that I wanted, like if we're talking animated, Rob Paulson, Maurice LaMarche.
Oh, totally.
Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson. Like, there are a lot of, like, video game voice actors and stuff that I'd like to see do that as well. No, anyway.
If Josh executive producing, I'm voice acting.
I would not be
in the story. I will voice act. I got skills.
I would not be.
So, last two questions from him. So, thank you, Benito. Is the Ghostmaster ritual available for 4th edition?
Yes.
If not, why was it removed?
Yeah.
So, it's available. Okay.
It is available. It is not listed as a talent under the talents. I'm flipping here right now. Pretty sure it's in the player's guide, in the Building Your Legend chapter. Oh, maybe it's in the companion. Yeah, no, it is available. I think it was not included in the player's guide for space reasons. But no, it is something that's available. Ghostmaster Ritual, yeah, it's in the companion, page 113.
Cool. So, it's still there. Just get the companion if you don't have it.
It is still there. It is available now as a knack off of thread weaving and requires you to have rank 5 thread weaving, so basically be a 5th circle character before you can use it. The rules for all of that are in the companion.
Cool.
Because it's in the companion under alternate training methods, which includes not only Ghostmasters but also the Orichalcum coin training pledge. Neither of which were in the player's guide, mainly for space reasons, but they're in the companion because they typically are required when you start dealing with higher circle characters.
Absolutely. And we'll get to Nax eventually. So hang on there. So Benito's last one, he did actually include some art for Josh and myself to take a look at, which is very cool stuff.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that.
I will download those, and when I post the link up on this episode on the podcast Twitter feed, I will put his I will write him back and say, is it okay if I don't remember whether he mentioned it in the email, if it's okay if we share the cool art.
Yeah, because we've got a week or so between when you're hearing this, when we're recording this, and when we're actually going to present it. So we got some time. So otherwise, Benito, we love your art. We'll see if we can share it. So say yes, and people will see your stuff. Otherwise, last question. Are the Tiskrang dragon-related, created, or sired?
Depends on who you ask. The true answer to that is unknown. The Tiskrang in Barsave have legends that have them as, we've got the dragon of the river and the dragon of like Tishlome and the dragon of the sun and things like that. And House Sirtis, I think, has a story that they are descended from dragons and whatnot. That is certainly a possible interpretation. It has not been definitively answered in any way. And I don't know that we will.
My Tiskrang is related to a dragon, but that's my character. So at least I want him to be. He aspires to be. So we go with that. So I don't think I actually hit my little knack on the beginning of the episode. So now it's time to all things biogeological. And we can talk about Obsidimen.
Yeah. Obsidimen.
One of my absolute favorite, if not my favorite race in all of Earthdawn.
They are certainly unique.
And that was my point to start off with is I played Shadowrun to begin with, and they had the 5 races. Dwarves, humans, orcs, elves, and trolls. And so when I picked up Earthdawn, I saw those exact same 5, but the 3 new ones really caught my eye. Windlings, Tiskrang, and Obsidimen. And 2 of those are my favorites, the Tiskrang and the Obsidimen. I have more Obsidimen characters than I do Tiskrang characters, which is saying something for me, because I love Tiskrang. But Obsidimen fill that role. Since we talked about gender inclusion earlier, with asking all of our female listeners to write in, Obsidimen hit that unique bent where they're genderless, essentially.
Biologically speaking.
Yes. Because they don't reproduce sexually.
So it is now time for the obligatory mention. Obsidimen are great.
They're more than great. They're great.
Obsidimen are awesome.
Yes. It's not it's meant to be a gender neutral term. It is. But they just refer to themselves as Obsidimen for no other reason than it's just the nature of the word, more or less. So they're somewhere between playing a golem and playing an earth spirit that's walking around, because they are imbued with the astral sense of the planet Gaia itself, in my view. So they're birthed from the side of a mountain or inside a cave or something along those lines, and it is the physical representation of the Earth's will on this planet. That's how I view my Obsidimen.
Yeah,
anyway.
that is definitely a good way to approach it. And because they do not reproduce biologically, they, depending on your character, if you're playing an Obsidiman, could be completely uninterested. They could be
Fascinating, Captain.
Fascinated by it in that, kind of way. But to like spread the inclusion flag, to wave it proudly and wildly, just because Obsidimen do not have a biological reproductive system, right? That does not mean that there are examples in Earthdawn of Obsidimen who identify or present as male or female, or, you could go gender neutral. You could go
absolutely
sort of bi, or gender fluid. There's a lot of opportunity there to explore, and look at that. And you can always present that within the framework of the Obsidiman curiosity and interest in the ways of other Namegivers to be exploring that on their own.
Yeah.
And much like I talked about the Tiskrang and like romantic relationships that they might form with other Namegivers, even though they can't necessarily biologically reproduce, there is nothing I would think that would prohibit an Obsidiman from forming romantic relationships with other Namegivers. I think in the case of an Obsidiman, depending on how deeply you're going to be playing the relationship with their life rock and the others that are born from it, that is a kind of deep spiritual connection that might make it very difficult to have a romantic relationship in the sort of traditional sense that we think. But that is something that could possibly exist as well.
Yeah.
So, again, Obsidimen are not born physically, biologically speaking, with biological sex. But that does not mean that there is not plenty of space to explore gender presentation and gender roles and all that sort of thing within the space of the Obsidimen.
Absolutely. And so this was way ahead of its time back in 1993.
Yeah. I don't think that... Absolutely. I think that I don't know how much of the awareness of such things was... Like, I don't think they intentionally wrote that into the presentation of Obsidimen, but I think it is fine for you to interpret that now. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that the development of the Obsidimen culture and biology and all of that was as a result of, this is something that's a little bit different. Kind of taking some initial starting points and assumptions and kind of spinning out from there and going on that, but that doesn't mean that we can't take that and say, hey, this is actually, like, in its own way, really cool and potentially inclusive and whatnot. Yes. My favorite quote, because I went through the Denizens of Earthdawn Volume 2, again, just to go over the Obsidimen before we got to this podcast, and my absolute favorite thing, not absolute, one of my favorite things in there is that the nature of Obsidimen is to learn all things and try to discover the nature of the universe. Do you have any other questions? That's it. Tell me about Obsidimen. That's us. That's what they want to do. Learn everything they can. Yeah. They include everybody. They don't hate any other races. They're welcoming of every single other race in the entire game because they just want to study and learn and appreciate everyone. And that's a really cool thing. They don't have any bias toward any other Namegivers or creatures. And so I found that just one of those, they're the most accepting of the races in all of Earthdawn. Yeah, they can be. Yeah. So, and that's on a generality because, of course, anybody can be corrupted or play the characters as you want to. But so let's go biologically real quick because we've been asked in the past about certain other bodily functions of Obsidimen. So let's just go through a couple things. They have blue blood, not red. They do eat, they do breathe, but not as much food as you think. They really don't like to eat animal meat much at all. They're mostly vegetarians. So they appreciate and eat things from the earth itself. Yeah. So anything that's grown. And their skin color varies like stone. So granite, marble, jade, redstone, limestone, all those fun things. But they really do have an appreciation for, they're proud of, any Obsidimen is proud usually if they have an elongated head. Mm-hmm.
and I looked this up. In human culture over the past thousands of years, cranial deformation is actually a thing, and they can simulate that on human beings. The Vanuatu, the macrocephaly, as reported by Hippocrates, the Huns and the Elans, and the Kushan Empire all did this practice of elongating the skulls of human beings from young age all the way through their maturation. And so if you want an example of what that kind of looks like, A, most of the art's in the book of the Obsidimen, but B, you can go find some archaeological pictures somewhere online for any of those. And that's just kind of something cool to look at for the artwork as well, as they appreciate an elongated skull.
Yeah. Obsidimen are large.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the whole discussion that we had about gender,
yes,
they otherwise, for the most part, have the same needs as any other living thing. They breathe, they sleep, they eat, they
can drown because they can't
drown because they can't. Well, you know, when you're a half-ton rock dude or rock lady or rock, you know, presenting whatever, that, you know, swimming is not something that you are capable of doing.
No.
Nope.
You do sink.
Nope.
No, you sink. Like the Titanic. And your theme song really should be written by the Rolling Stones. I'm just kidding.
Very, you know, they are not as tall as trolls. They do tend towards the 7 to 7.5 foot height on average. But they tend to weigh, like I said, about half a ton, which means that they are very dense and tend to appear very like sort of blocky and squat, and for lack of a better term, they're bricks.
Yes.
To use the comic book term. You know, they're the brick strong guy from X Factor.
Absolutely.
The mutants would be an Obsidiman type build, although he's a little bit more extreme depending on the artist that's depicting
Who's drawing it. Yeah.
But you know, very
Hulk.
Very, very sort of, Hulk-like in terms of just a lot of physical mass and bulk. Well, there you go.
Fantastic
there you go.
Four.
Ben Grimm.
Yeah, something like that. The other interesting thing about the Obsidimen and all the art, of course, is very consistent in all the books. They don't have an iris or a pupil to their eye. So, you know, a pupil or white, actually. So all they have is the color of the eye is the same color uniformly throughout. Yep. So you really can't quite tell where they're looking.
Yeah.
Which is always fun to play. But the view from Obsidimen toward their role in the universe is, and this is the quote I got, the view of the Namegiver's place in the universe is less grand than many people choose to believe. But the Obsidimen are not fatalistic. They just know that they are one tiny infinitesimal speck among the grand dance of the universe. And so they know what their place is when they show up. And they do show up fully formed. They don't have an infantile stage. They never change size. So they emerge on this earth that size, and they will die that size.
Right.
And that's pretty much it.
You know, barring disaster that, you know, removes a limb or something along those
amputation. Lines. Yeah, things like that. But the other aspect I love about Obsidimen is that they are calm and they proceed in a 9 times out of 10 very rational manner. They just kind of absorb all the information, and then when it's time to take action, they can be as swift as anybody else. They just are more contemplative and good-natured and unassuming than anybody else. And so it ascribes to me a different role-playing aspect to my characters that I play.
Yeah.
So I get to talk a lot less, listen a lot more.
Personality-wise, I'm thinking of, what's his name? The Goa'uld from Stargate SG-1, the one who was part of the team, if you ever watched that show.
Yeah. Didn't watch that.
Okay. People who have watched it will know that I'm talking about. Played by Christopher Priest, I think was the actor's name. But the Goa'uld were... So have you seen the Stargate movie?
Yes.
Okay. So the Goa'uld were the servants that had the
headdresses on.
The headdresses on. Okay.
Yeah.
In the series, they get expanded a little bit more. They're basically a slave race of the masters.
Mm-hmm.
And the Stargate SG-1 team has a Goa'uld that is basically a member of the team. And he is a very, like, sort of almost, like, I don't want to say Spock-like, but that's a very similar kind of, like, very sort of rational and calm and thoughtful approach to things. But when when their emotions get roused, they can be very...
Yeah. I find it more of an internal character for me to play. And so it's easier to play. We're in the world of online role playing at the moment. It's easier for me to do that. But in person, all around the table, I am conscious of what I'm doing playing an Obsidimen character. And so I purposefully talk less. I purposefully don't proffer anything until I'm asked. Yeah. And I purposefully just, here's the answer, and there you are, because I've already thought about it. So that's the thing that, like I said, they're usually even-tempered, not very quick to anger, and unless, because there's a trigger, kind of like a Gahad for Obsidimen, do not destroy nature, and especially trees. Trees are sacred to Obsidimen, because they are one of the few things that's actually born of two elements to them. It's planted in the earth, and it exists in can catch the wind. And so it's half air and half earth. So really, trees, they are the ultimate tree huggers. Just going to say that right now.
Well, it's not any surprise that the purifier, originally an Obsidiman only discipline, but then sort of the path, which is still very cleanse and restore nature from the corruption of the horrors, tends to be very Obsidiman centric because of that philosophical approach that they have.
Yeah, my first character was an Obsidiman weaponsmith, and I finally got to 4th circle. I was going to start dual discipline as a purifier. So yes, right along with you. Since they are not reproducing sexually speaking and not procreating that way, because they don't actually have anything to do with children, they are born from a life rock. Yes. And that is usually a mountain that is the center of the energy for the Obsidiman and his brotherhood, because there's more than one usually birthed from that life rock. Maybe not at the same time, but all Obsidimen that are born from that life rock in the surrounding area are all of the same brotherhood.
Right.
So it's kind of like a nation state, I guess you could call it. And there are always 2 elders, so there's a duality there. The life rock contains a living earth elemental spirit, which is what actually makes them emerge the times that they do. So, like I said, the earth itself is probably, feeding the world, the Obsidimen, as it needs to happen. And the life rock is named, so therefore it has a true pattern. Mm-hmm. But you probably will never hear an Obsidiman tell you what the true name is of the life rock, because that would give you power
over it. Yes.
Yeah. We're not going to do that. But there are 3 stages to birthing an Obsidiman: emergence, awakening, and the dreaming. Emergence is, of course, when they actually are coming out of the mountain, which could take up to a month to happen. And the elders always know when that's going to happen. It's never a surprise. So they always kind of...
The life rock tells them.
Migrate over there to receive the emergent one. And then there's the awakening, which takes 100 years or so to actually feed all of the information about the Obsidiman to themselves. So it's everything about nature and language and history and so forth. Everything that Obsidiman needs to know is during the awakening. And then, of course, there's the dreaming, which they can come into and out of if they meet other Obsidimen and so forth. And that's the occasional communing back with the life rock itself. So it's the transcendental meditation, per se, I guess you could call it. So Obsidimen do not like to leave the earth. They don't like to be on airships. I always attributed that to like B.A. Baracus from the A-Team. Don't get me on the plane. I'm not getting on the plane. You have to drag me.
It's less a sort of fear of flying the way that it was with B.A. and more of an Obsidiman that is not in contact with the earth will perhaps feel a lack of connection to things. Which is part of the reason why in early editions, Obsidimen could not be air sailors or sky raiders. And I still am strongly of the belief that those combinations should be rare.
Yes.
Because, of course, everybody wants to go and make an Obsidiman air sailor because that juxtaposition is kind of funny. Mm-hmm. And it is, but it stops being funny when you've seen it half a dozen times.
True.
So,
just because you can.
Yeah. Anyway, no, that's...
My character, any Obsidiman character I had that needed to get on an airship, I had to buy ground boots first.
Yeah.
Just so I could feel that connection and go, I'll be okay. And I always played them a little bit off anyway. I always took down my steps like 1 or 2 on purpose just because I'm not myself on this airship. I don't feel correct. I don't feel right. But a couple of character role-playing notes. Obsidimen deeply are connected to their life rock, almost like some people are to either their religion or their home country. And so they feel a deep, deep, deep connection there. And so they will carry a stone called a life stone to maintain that connection. And it's just as bad if they lose that stone as it is losing your favorite weapon, your thread item, your clothes, or a limb for them. And they have, like I said, the absolute respect of trees, because they are sacred. So if they meet another Obsidiman, where those two Obsidimen meet, somewhere nearby, one or both of them will plant a tree in honor of that meeting. So, again, the ultimate tree huggers. And otherwise, Obsidimen, when they meet each other, will share spring water. But they will almost never share that with another Namegiver unless that bond is incredibly deep and long-lasting. Because to them, that is the purest of pure drinks ever. They'll share with you a beer, some wine, some ale, some tea, doesn't matter. Milk, whatever. Spring water? Nope. Obsidimen only. So those are just, like I said, they're one of the more fascinating roles to play. I find them more internally role-playing than I do externally. Yeah. But one of those things.
No, they're
awesome,
fascinating. And if you're looking for a challenge when it comes to role playing and exploring a character, Obsidimen have, I think, any other Namegiver race beat in that regard.
I agree,
because in some respects they are so alien to our expectations. Like windlings into Scrang are exotic. Obsidimen are alien. In some regards. I mean, they're still living beings. They still have some of those touchstones, but their long life, their deliberateness, their deliberate attitude, their size, while they don't share the raw physical size of a troll, for example, they have the mass, like double the mass of a troll. And so everything that I said in the past episode about trolls and how the world is not really made for them, for the most part, goes equally so or doubly so for Obsidimen. Because while Obsidimen don't necessarily have the physical size, that bulk and that weight can make it really uncomfortable. Like Obsidimen probably don't like getting rooms on the second floor of an inn. Agreed. Because of the possibility that they could put too much stress on the structure and cause it damage.
We've had many an adventure where we couldn't rent a horse for Obsidimen because it couldn't carry them, so we had to actually get 2 horses and a cart. And the Obsidimen always rode in the cart. That
is the most common transport method for Obsidimen, is to get a cart with a couple of horses or mules or oxen to pull it.
Yeah.
Because you need to get into like Thundra beasts and things like that before you have a mount that is potentially able to carry their, or an elephant or something like that. And then again,
not too big fans of riverboats.
Yeah, water bad.
They don't want to go over.
Airships bad, riverboats bad, mounts bad.
Yes.
Just there are many obstacles that need to be taken into account with Obsidimen. But the rewards that you can get as far as playing one and the explorations and stuff are just amazing.
Agreed. Because aside from the other brothers that are birthed from the life rock itself, they will create, to Josh's point, they will create those bonds. And having a romantic entanglement is a separate thing entirely, if you want to explore that route. But Obsidimen are the living embodiment of family of choice. They will, because they really don't have brothers and sisters, no siblings, no parents, no aunts, uncles, or cousins. If they choose to hang around you,
we understand them. Yeah.
At least not the way we understand them. If they choose to hang around you and be with you for a long period of your character's lifetime or your friend's character's lifetimes, whatever those are, that is their family of choice. They will call you brother to a degree that they can, but their true brotherhood is with anybody else birthed from that same life rock. But you're just one step below that.
Right.
So, yeah. So they are the living embodiment of family of choice.
Which is a great idea. I absolutely love that theme and love seeing it show up.
Anyway, stats. We've gone long.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of email. We're going a little bit long this week. That's fine.
We'll shorten something else up.
So, Obsidimen have, aside from windlings, like the biggest variety when it comes to their stat choices. They get a -2 dexterity penalty, which can cause problems for any Obsidimen who want to pursue a more martial discipline. Warrior, Swordmaster are a lot less common because a Swordmaster relies a lot more on finesse as opposed to strength and endurance. So Obsidimen tend to ward Warrior more than they do Swordmaster, especially where the Warrior gets more talents that allow them to boost their initiative to overcome that dexterity penalty. They get a starting strength in 4th edition of 18, which is a full step higher than Trolls, who are second at 14. Obsidimen have ridiculously high strengths, which is again why they are sort of so well suited toward Warrior,
the physical,
as it comes to a discipline. An Obsidiman spellcaster can be
knock you flat. So
very
formidable.
Right, can be very formidable because at that point, like, you don't need to put any points into strength. You may not need to even put any points into dexterity. Obsidimen have a base 13 toughness, which is a full step above sort of the human baseline. And in addition to that, they have the racial ability of +3 to their wound threshold. So they've already got a higher toughness to begin with, plus it's even harder to wound them.
Yep.
So they are very durable, which is a great thing to have for any discipline, whether you're going to be a fighter type or a spellcaster or a support class or whatever. It's great for that. Perception of 9, willpower of 10, a slight negative to their perception, the same way that you have with a troll, which makes it slightly more difficult to be a spellcaster with them, but not painfully so. Willpower of 10 is right in the baseline average. So there's no problems there. And a charisma of 9, again, a very small penalty. It's the same as what you have with an orc. In the case of the Obsidiman, that probably represents the fact that they do not have the same kind of cultural upbringing and indoctrination that you would have with other Namegivers in terms of a childhood and being able to understand society, and would play a little bit into their traditional presentation as being a little bit more
naive,
trusting and guileless, in that regard. Naive. But, I mean, Omasu is a troubadour. Obsidiman troubadours are pretty cool and nice. Their movement rate is only 10 because they are big and slow. Their karma
when they get going.
When they get going, it is that momentum. Their karma modifier is 3, so they don't have much in the way of karma to overcome that. They've also got some other restrictions that kind of come into play when it comes to their racial abilities. We mentioned the wound threshold increase. They are limited in what they can wear for armor. Yes. They will not wear anything except living armors, those are noted in the
Blood
rules
pebble,
as appropriate.
living crystal,
Fernweave. They do make up for it with a natural armor of 3. So it is, not uncommon for an Obsidiman to basically head toward Blood Pebble. Like, they might not start off with any armor to begin with, and instead get a big shield to boost their physical defense. Then start saving up to get Blood Pebble, because their natural armor does stack with whatever armor they get. So,
so you get Blood Pebble and natural armor of 3, you get like an 8.
Yeah, you've got physical armor of 8 and a mystic armor of 3 on top of whatever other mystic armor you might already have. Then, the changes to shields providing physical defense bonuses instead of physical armor have really helped. One of the weaknesses in early editions of Obsidimen was because they had that sort of lower dexterity to start off with.
Yeah.
And the way that armor defeating hits worked in earlier editions meant that even an Obsidiman who, say, had Blood Pebble armor and a body shield, which is usually what Obsidimen go for to get the most armor kind of out of that, because of their lower dexterity, tended to get the armor defeating hits more often and make their armor not worth anything. The changes to armor defeating hits and the change to shields being a physical defense bonus instead of an armor bonus make Obsidiman warriors, because warriors tend to be weapon and shield, absolutely brutal. Like, Obsidiman warriors, because at that point you get a shield, you get a body shield that gives a +3 to your physical defense. That makes up for any physical for any dexterity shortcoming that you might have as a result of that.
Period.
Right. And then...
So maybe you're back to 8 or 9 or 10.
Right. But then you stack, and then you stack that with all of the warrior other stuff, and the fact that you're looking at starting, you don't need to really, you can get to a base strength of step 8, right out of the gate without really any investment of points. And if you really want to go strong, you can get up to a step 9 with an Obsidiman and just be an absolute monster when it comes to dishing out damage. You don't rely on your karma over much, but I've got an Obsidiman warrior that is one of the pre-gens that I have for the convention games that I run, and he is awful. He's awesome.
I was just thinking about an Obsidiman on a Stygian for a cavalryman, and just the strength bonuses go there.
The problem with a cavalryman, and this is the kind of the case with other atypical Obsidiman disciplines, is that typically you are not going to be giving a Stygian or a Thunder Beast or a Dire or something like that to a starting character. No. Because their power is so out of scale with the rest of the group. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, while it's not prohibitive, really kind of makes Obsidimen cavalrymen really, really hard to work into a game.
Yeah.
Obsidimen are phenomenal.
They're fantastic concepts of characters, and there's so much room for those characters to interact with everybody else. So I love them. I absolutely love them from a game master perspective, from a player perspective, from my character perspective. I have loved them forever. And yes, I own both copies of the Life Rock novel. So yeah, the Prospera press version and the Red Brick version. So yeah. Mm-hmm. We talked about the Tiskrang sort of being an iconic Earthdawn special thing. The Obsidimen are right up there in terms of really making Earthdawn feel different when it comes to your fantasy RPGs. Yeah. And if you want a visual aspect of what they look like, look at Korg from Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah.
And Thor, the Dark World, he fought one of the same race, but didn't have a name. It was just a guy in the battlefield. He took down with one hit, but that's about the size they are as well. So just look to them. And so if we're ever going to cast, because somebody asked the question, if we're ever going to cast,
we get Taika Waititi to voice. We got Taika Waititi to voice an Obsidiman.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Do that. And we've got Korg for the screen representation, but if they do an animated feature, it's even better because that way, the special effects come down way, way more affordable on those. But anyway,
we have gone on quite a while. Thank you everybody for sticking around. If you have any answers to the questions that we posed way back at the beginning of the episode, if you have any other questions that you want to ask us or any feedback or anything like that, edsgpodcast@gmail.com.
So yeah, what did Josh and I do for our first anniversary on the podcast? What podcast related thing can we do for our first anniversary? Getting through that. And then secondly, how do we spread the word and advertise and get more people involved in Earthdawn?
Yes.
That's it. So
other
email
than that,
us your
social medias, check the links. You know where to find us.
Absolutely. Get a hold of us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, folks, thank you for listening. All this time, we're 80 minutes in. Woo, baby. Longest one yet. It is time for you to go make your Obsidimen legend.
Good night, everybody.